election here in the United States, and we are very, very honored to be joined here by Dr. Hassan Abdul Salam, who is the director of the Abandon Harris campaign. Dr. Salam, thanks so much for being with us.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for all your work.
Well, listen, it's a pleasure to have you here. And I guess I'll just start with this. I mean, last week we saw the DNC with, the just total snub of the Palestinian people and anyone who cares about this issue of the genocide. I'm curious, you all abandoned Harris. You were there. You had a press conference. You were pushing different things. I mean, what has been the response you have seen to your call to deliver a vote against those perpetuating genocide in the wake of what we saw in the DNC?
Among communities of conscience, it's very clear that the sense is of elation, relief, that there's at least a voice and opportunity for all of us to take action at this critical moment where our country is engaging in one of the most vicious human rights violation in our history, the genocide enabling it, this administration, and the bombings, the munitions that are raining upon people in Gaza. And so when we came out and we said very clearly that the only thing that we have now in our arsenal, our nonviolent arsenal, is to punish the vice president for enabling genocide in order for us to buy power such that it will be forever known that people of conscience came out, they walked gently to the ballot box, and they spoke the truth, and it led to the demise, the toppling of genocide. This administration should be known for what it is. It is despicable for us to even have this very conversation today, for us to contemplate the options in a democratic election for which this should never have been a choice. And so we feel committed, as we have begun with Mr. Biden in October. We declared that he would be someone we would never support. We actively began campaigning against him since November 1st when he didn't declare a permanent ceasefire. In July, we made a similar request to the vice president. We asked her to tell us what her policies were. We only wanted two: an unconditional ceasefire, permanent, and second, a full arms embargo. The media took our message to the campaign. They said, no, we're not going to talk to you. And so extraordinary, the reaction that you could see after that, the vice president speaking to protesters who were screaming the song of justice, saying, you will never hide from genocide. And she said, I'm speaking. And we knew there and then we had no other option but to punish. And that's why on August 19th, we did so in Chicago, blocks away from the DNC convention. Because the real question, Madam Vice President, is when will the people of Gaza speak? When will people of conscience oppressed all around the world because of us? Their voices are completely silenced. When you had a moment to hear from young people, them talking on behalf of the voiceless, you shut them down because you felt that you had to continue with your speech that day. But for day after day, attack after attack, silence from this administration. Silence in the face of people who are shouting and dying to be heard. And so even if we're the only ones, and our people understand that that might be the case, the only movement, the only organization that abandons Harris, we will do it regardless of consequence. And we will win, and we will defeat this administration, because in the swing states, we believe we can actually ensure that this vice president doesn't win because of these vile attacks on an innocent people on the verge of disintegration.
Wow, 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 folks. Does this look like a coalition that is going to be voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? Does it? Dr. Abdul Salam, he, like I said, heading the group, abandoned Harris in Michigan. along with everything else that's happening in Dearborn, that is going to be ground zero, folks, for Michigan. I am telling you right now, this is not anecdotal. I have friends of mine that are in Dearborn, Michigan. We have friends of friends who are telling me that the sentiment out in Dearborn, Michigan is such that there is no way that the majority of people now, they did vote for Biden. They knew that, they found out that that was a huge, huge mistake. Now, I'm not saying they're all going to come for Trump, but there are a lot of them, folks, a lot of them that are basically saying, you know what? We will give our vote for Trump. And there are thousands upon thousands that are also saying that they are not going to vote for Harris. They will go third party, or they will just not vote. We had this community in Dearborn, Michigan, made up of Arab Muslims, Arab Christians, and other people within that community, the black community. When it was Biden running in 2020, these guys were knocking on doors, signing people up. And the majority obviously did not vote for Trump. They did give their vote to Biden. And now we're finding out that, oh, what a mistake they made. And they are not going to repeat that mistake with Kamala Harris. They are not going to do it, folks. I'm telling you right now, Pennsylvania, the way I look at it, the way I've looked at the polls, seeing some of the internal, seeing some of the subcategories and the subtabs, when you're looking at all the different pollsters that are out there, I believe that Pennsylvania, Trump is going to win it between 3 and 5 points. And I truly, truly believe that Michigan is going to fall for Trump as well. Because 150,000 votes is what Biden won it by, folks. And a majority of that. You have over 150,000, people in the city, just in Dearborn alone. Not to mention Arab Muslims and Arab Christians and Palestinian Americans, all, in other counties, other precincts. The uncommitted vote was 130,000 people. Uncommitted. Folks, let's continue on, see what Dr. Abdus has to say. I'm telling you what, folks, this is galvanizing that entire group of people to go against Kamala Harris and to literally, as they say, that would be the ultimate fulfillment of the dream of abandoned Harris, is to literally make sure that she does not win the presidency of the United States. That's what's going on. Let's go back to the interview right now.
Hassan, I'm curious if you could maybe explain to our audience or differentiate a bit, because I think it's a little bit confusing. And obviously there was some overlap between the uncommitted movement and what was initially the abandoned Biden movement that's now the abandoned Harris movement. But now that overlap, I guess, is kind of over after what happened at the Democratic Convention, or maybe even before that. So can you explain to our audience what is the difference between the uncommitted movement and then the idea of abandoned Harris?
So the critical difference that I would say between both is that we believe our leverage comes from punishing, ensuring the defeat of those who have violated the rights, the civil rights of innocent people. Whereas uncommitted believes in the continued negotiation, reconciliation with those in power. We've made it clear from the beginning, and that has been a difference that we've seen from October, from November.
Just want to clear this up, folks. Abandoned Harris, right, is so different than the uncommitted vote, because as this gentleman here, Dr. Abdus, what he was saying is that the difference is that abandoned Harris, abandoned Biden, they want to punish them. They want to make them lose, whatever it takes. withholding votes, voting for Trump, voting for another party. That's what abandon Harris, abandon Biden is all about. Whereas the uncommitted vote, they're saying they still maybe, thinking that they might be some conciliatory, so but within that 130,000 of uncommitteds, there is a tremendous amount of overlap. Let's talk Venn diagrams. Oh, Venn diagrams. Just like Kamala likes to talk about, right? So if you want to talk about where they intersect, well, guess what, folks? They also want to punish and make sure that Harris and Walz do not win. Let's continue.
Even though we called on people to vote uncommitted in the primary, abandon Biden called on people to vote uncommitted, we are not uncommitted in the sense that we believe very essential that the message to the political landscape will only come if there is a defeat on November 5th. Whereas folks in the uncommitted campaign, they believe that they could still leverage some type of concession from the Democratic Party, from the vice president, by continued interaction, engagement with the party. We were never welcome to the DNC. We don't get any donations from the Democratic Party. We're often attacked by the Democratic Party. We take a stance that we cannot in any way legitimize this party that's engaged in genocide. As a human rights professor, I could tell you that we feel that engagement with the party, seeking concessions after it's been evident that they don't want to provide any support to the people of Gaza, would be a road folly in its pursuit, because it would mean that if they were to win this election, they would have won despite the genocide. So what would happen afterwards if they're rewarded? Our parents and family and friends who were killed would be a precedent that could be set, and any oppression you can engage in with communities of conscience and still then say, you still have to vote for us. And so we feel very strongly, though we love the people in uncommitted, we know they're well-intentioned, we know that they are seeking the good of Gaza, we feel that the only way that we can win in this fight is if history writes that the Democratic Party at the presidential level lost, was defeated, was punished because of their unconscionable attacks on an innocent people.
No, I think, that it's a very important point, and I'm glad you raised the issue of people of conscience. And for those who saw your press conference, they won't be surprised. But I wanted you to just opine a little bit on, the diversity of abandon Harris, because I think some people are trying to pigeonhole this as this is just a Muslim thing, this is just an Arab thing, which obviously a lot of Arab and Muslim people are speaking out. But there was a poll in March that 1 in 6.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that, folks. And like he was talking about, 1 in 6 are Black Americans, folks. Black Americans. This is a very thing. Yes, majority are probably Muslim Arabs, and a majority within the Christian Arab population. The Coptic Christians from Egypt. You've got people from Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, other places in the Middle East that are not all Muslim. But the majority of them, like I said, there's a difference that people understand. Arab Christians and Arab Muslims, there really isn't, other than the religious thing, but you know what? Their ethnicity is a tie that binds them even closer between Christian Arabs and Muslim Arabs than the religion between the two groups. That's really on the side. It is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. The ethnicity, the heritage, being Arab, means a whole lot more to that community than whether or not they're Christian or Jewish or Muslim or whatever. Anyways, let's just go back just a little bit to see when he's going to talk about this. Let's go right back to here, and Let's hear it.
Obviously, a lot of Arab and Muslim people are speaking out, but I mean, there was a poll in March that 1 in 6 black voters were considering not voting as a form of protest, and that protecting Palestine was one of the top issues that was causing them to say that. So this is something that transcends, any one community
Yes,
in terms
it
of
does.
those who want to deliver a message like what Abandon Harris is promoting.
People from all backgrounds, African American, Latino, Gen Z, people from all ages, religions, Hindu, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, are part of the Abandon Biden and now Abandon Harris movement. We see and are guided by the light of Martin Luther King. We're here to say that this is an
Look at this, folks, as we're seeing this. These are protests that were at the DNC, protests going on, okay? As we approach closer and closer and closer to the election, there are going to be more and more protests that are out there. School's going to be starting up soon, folks. Schools on campuses. You think this is going to be, it's not going to be a great look at all. And Kamala Harris is going to be basically fighting this on all fronts out there.
American movement that has people from all across the nation. It resonates. People don't want to side or be complicit with genocide. Our fathers and foremothers, the people who set the course for civil rights, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, John Lewis, they guide us and remind us that civil rights belong to all people, not just Americans. And so torture, genocide, displacement should not happen to anyone around the world. We are gratified by the attention by folks in our press conferences, in our protests, coming from all backgrounds. At our very press conference, we had Cornel West, we had Jill Stein, we had Claudia de la Cruz, and we believe that this mission is one that all Americans must participate in. Muslim Americans and Arab Americans are but a minority, and we have been inspired and want to be hand in hand with all people of conscience, and that anyone can participate. Libertarians, former Republicans, former Democrats, progressives, conservatives. We are not talking about a political policy, a question, an issue that differentiates Americans. We're talking genocide. This should be attracting 100% of our population from all across the nation. And so, I'm here to tell you, please join us. Please come and teach us. Please hold our hands so we can, like people before us, sing the song that we shall overcome.
I want to ask you because, this is a question that I'm sure you get often because this is pretty much the line of defense when it comes to how Democrats respond to the idea of how, not voting for Kamala Harris, is how do you respond to the whole, well, you're basically getting Trump elected by doing this, which I think is a really insidious attack line, but nonetheless, it's one that we hear a lot. So how do you respond to that line of you are helping get Trump elected, and as a result, things are just going to turn out worse for Palestinians than they already are?
And the former president prevented our family and friends and colleagues from entering America, but the vice president killed them. Madam Vice President, you killed our people. You killed human beings. If it were the case that you committed some act that we could actually negotiate with, for example, you didn't pursue a specific policy that we have disagreements about on taxes, or on some policy question about the degree and relative importance of infrastructure in particular states. Well, those are technicalities. We could differ. But when you come to the value of life, this is a message to all Americans. There is no compromise. There's things we should never compromise on because otherwise we're all unsafe. We need to have a nation and a planet that's safe. And so what we say is when you commit genocide, our only option is to send a clear signal that it's intolerable. And so the president and now the former president that you refer to Out abandon Biden and now abandon Harris, we say 4 years under any Republican is incomparable to 1 day in Gaza. That we understand fully that this struggle continues, but that we must, in our first step, punish genocide here on November 5th, and then continue with our fellow Americans all across the planet and here in the United States in the struggle against Trump. We believe all the two candidates at the top of the ticket here, Mr. Trump and the vice president, who really represent a single ticket, are despicable candidates. An oligopoly, a bargain, that when people say you'll bring.
Now, on this part here, I obviously differ, with the good doctor. So listen, kudos to him. Attacking Biden, attacking Harris, mobilizing the voters in the state of Michigan and around the swing states for more people to join the abandon Biden, abandon Harris movement. You know what? God bless you. Okay, absolutely. Go for it. And if that happens to get Trump elected, okay, we are happy with you. But as far as you equating that Trump and Biden are both the same, you are out of your mind, doctor. But that's fine. We can have that differing of opinion. As long as Trump gets elected, I don't care what you have to do that. If you guys stay at home and don't vote, great. If you give your vote to Jill Stein, Cornel West, RFK is out, but if he's still on the ballot, it would be much better for you guys to go ahead and give that vote because RFK says he's endorsing Trump. But even if you can't, vote for you know what? But if you're just stay home, then that would be the best thing, folks. That's what you need to be doing out there. That's what we want you to do. But as far as you saying they're cut from the same cloth, they're basically the same, the former president and President Biden and Kamala. I have a feeling that President Trump would be able to negotiate a ceasefire, bring the hostages home, and do something that the Biden and Harris administration have been sitting on their ass for over 3.5 years. Who have they brought home? A few prisoners that were let go. And even that wasn't huge fanfare. They did that in the middle of the freaking night. In the middle of the night they did that, folks. What was that all about? The plane came touchdown. It's dark. Biden didn't even know what to say. Kamala gave her usual word salad. Amazing. Just amazing. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasser Shake Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasser. If you haven't done so already, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow. You all know what to do. Take a look at our links above and below. My final thought is always, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.